The boy thought he was just helping a stranger, but that single moment under the rain was about to turn his whole world upside down. The rain poured down in sheets, turning the narrow streets into glistening rivers. Armin, a thin 19-year-old student with worn-out shoes and a backpack that had seen better days, hurried along the pavement, clutching his books tightly under his jacket. He was late for his part-time job at the cafe, a job he needed desperately to pay for his tuition and rent. As he turned the corner, his eyes caught sight of an elderly man struggling to walk against the wind. The man's clothes were soaked, and his trembling hands gripped a plastic bag that threatened to tear open any second. Armin's first instinct was to keep walking. After all, he was already late. But something in the man's eyes, tired, lonely, and quietly pleading, made him stop. Without a second thought, Armin pulled off his own jacket and draped it over the man's shoulders. "Come on, I'll walk you," he said, steadying him with one arm. The rain was merciless, but step by step, they made their way across the street to a small bus shelter. The old man smiled faintly, his voice trembling as he whispered, "Thank you, son. Most people wouldn't have stopped." Armin shrugged, trying to hide the shiver running through his own body. He offered the man his umbrella and a warm smile before running off toward work, his clothes dripping and his heart strangely light. He didn't know it yet, but this simple act of kindness would set in motion a chain of events that would change his life in ways he could never have imagined. The rain had stopped, but droplets still clung to the tree leaves, falling softly onto the ground. Ali sat on the edge of his small bed, replaying the afternoon in his mind, the shivering old man, his trembling hands, the grateful smile. He had returned home soaked and exhausted, but somehow his heart felt warm. As he was hanging his damp clothes to dry, there was a knock at the door. It startled him. No one ever visited. When he opened it, the same elderly man stood there, now dressed in a neat coat and holding a warm smile. "Young man," he said gently, "I didn't thank you properly earlier. Would you join me for a meal?" Ali hesitated. He barely had time or money for such luxuries. "Sir, I can't," he began, but the man interrupted. "Please! It would mean a lot to me." Something in the man's eyes, kind yet determined, made Ali agree. They walked through the quiet streets, the sun peeking shyly from behind clouds. The old man led Ali to a small but elegant restaurant tucked between two shops. Inside, the smell of fresh bread and steaming soup wrapped around him like a blanket. As they sat down, Ali felt out of place in his worn clothes, but the man's calm presence eased his nerves. "Tell me about yourself," the man said, leaning forward. Slowly, Ali shared bits of his life, how he studied during the day, worked nights at a store, and sent money back to his mother in the village. The man listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. When their food arrived, Ali realized it was the first time in months he had sat at a table with a proper hot meal. He didn't know yet, but this invitation would be the first step toward a change that would alter his life forever.
The morning sunlight filtered softly through the curtains as the twin girls slowly woke up. For the first time in a long while, they had slept through the night without shivering. Daniel was already awake, sitting in the living room with a cup of coffee, waiting. He wasn't just a billionaire. He had spent years building companies, negotiating deals, and reading people. But nothing had prepared him for this. When the girls quietly walked in, still unsure of their place in this grand home, he smiled and gestured for them to sit. "Can you tell me your names?" he asked gently. The older one hesitated before whispering, "Lena." She nudged the younger one beside her, who looked up with big, wary eyes and murmured, "Nora." It was the first time he'd heard them speak. Their voices were soft but carried so much weight, as if speaking aloud was dangerous. Daniel leaned forward. "Do you know where your parents are?" The girls looked at each other. Lena bit her lip, trying not to cry. "Gone," she said. "We ran. Bad people." Daniel's heart sank. He didn't push them further but nodded, his mind already racing. He knew then this wasn't just about giving two homeless girls a place to stay. This was deeper, maybe darker. That evening, while the girls played quietly in the garden, Daniel made some calls. Private investigators, child services contacts, anyone he trusted. If someone had been after them, he needed to know why. But just as he hung up the phone, a message arrived on his private line. No name, just one chilling sentence. "They're not yours to keep." Daniel froze. Whoever the girls had run from, they weren't finished. And now they knew exactly where to find them.
The next morning, Raheem walked into a grand office building for the first time in his life. Mr. Haroon was there, smiling warmly. "I own this company," he said. "And I believe you're exactly the kind of person I need." Raheem blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. Mr. Haroon explained that his company was looking for people with honesty and compassion, qualities Raheem had shown without even knowing. "If you're willing," he continued, "I'd like to offer you a full-time position here." Raheem stood frozen, his mind spinning. From standing in the rain with nothing but wet clothes, to standing in the office of a man who could change his life forever, it felt like a dream he didn't deserve. But Mr. Haroon's eyes were kind and certain. For the first time in years, Raheem felt hope flicker in his chest. Maybe, just maybe, his life was about to change in ways he could never imagine. The next morning, Amir woke up to the smell of fresh bread and tea. He looked around, unsure of where he was, until he remembered. He was in Mr. Kareem's warm home. The elderly man, now dressed in clean clothes, greeted him with a smile. "Good morning, my boy," he said. "Sit down, breakfast is ready." Amir, still shy, thanked him quietly and joined him at the table. As they ate, Mr. Kareem began to speak, his tone soft but full of meaning. "Last night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how you helped me without expecting anything. You reminded me of my own grandson, who I lost years ago. And I realized maybe life brought you to me for a reason." Then Mr. Kareem pulled out a small envelope from his pocket and slid it across the table. Inside was a scholarship acceptance letter, Amir's name printed in bold. His heart stopped for a moment. "I pulled a few strings," Mr. Kareem explained. "You won't have to worry about tuition anymore. And I want you to stay here with me. Consider this your home." Amir's hands trembled as tears blurred his vision. "But why would you do this for me?" he asked. Mr. Kareem smiled, his eyes glistening. "Because kindness should never be repaid with just words, it should be passed on. You gave me shelter in the rain, Amir. Now I'm giving you shelter in life." Amir hugged him tightly, his chest heavy with gratitude. In that moment, he realized something powerful. One small act of compassion had changed not just his day, but his entire future. And as the rain began to fall softly outside again, Amir knew his life's true purpose: to keep passing kindness forward. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with others. Subscribe to Human Fables for more real, emotional, and inspiring stories.